Network. Justin, how are you today?
Good afternoon. I'm doing well, fellas. How about yourself?
Good.
Not too bad, Justin. Good catching up again. Taking a look at ACC Media Day that happened, and I look at Fran Brown and Syracuse, and let's start there. What was the overall feeling of Fran Brown in year one? Was it more shock or surprise of what he was able to do?
Honestly, I might surprise you guys with saying this answer. I'd probably say more par for the course. Now, going to Syracuse last year for the college or our ACC football road trip, I wasn't out games in his first season, but I was a firm believer of what he was able to instill there. There were small moments where I picked up at that practice, and I said, I think this is going to be a really special season. And I went as far to tell some people off camera that, hey, that Miami game is going to mean something. For some reason, I felt early in the season, knowing how the Dome has been a house of horrors for a lot of people, that there's going to be some huge implications. So I think a lot of things that I saw last year were based off of what I saw in practice. Kyle McCord telling some of the players, hey, don't stop at the 15-yard line. Make sure that you run all the way through the end zone. And that's something that he picked up, obviously, during his time at Ohio State. And all of that snowballed in a good way for the team throughout the season. So what I saw in first year from Fran Brown is who he was. He's a winner, even though it's his first head coaching job.
That ACC Roadshow will be stopping back here in Syracuse. You'll be back. When you're looking at this year's team, we circle the quarterback competition going on right now. Is that what you're kind of focusing in on, of who's going to be Syracuse quarterback and go from there?
It all starts under center. I know Ricky Collins was sent out to Charlotte for our ACC Media Days, but even when I did our Syracuse preview show in studio in Bristol, speaking with the fellas, and I'm sure maybe you guys feel the same way, is if you bring in Stephen Jelly, and you know the experience that he has from Notre Dame, and he had meaningful snaps in the college football playoff, you have to believe he is a front runner.
Yeah.
And I still even remember, like, Pitt, a completely different situation last year, but they brought Nate Yarnell to the media days and then stepped in Eli Holstein as the starter. We obviously know how their season turned out, 7-0, and then a 6-game losing streak to end the year because of injury and a bunch of other reasons. But how successful this Syracuse team is going to start under center, and I do think the front runner is probably in Jelly. I'm hoping for that road show you guys mentioned on Tuesday when we're on site that we're able to speak to both quarterbacks. I have to double check with my producer, but I think how the season is going to develop, that's where the main cog is for the center or under center.
The offensive guys are speaking today, so hopefully we get to speak to Ricky and Steve. Well, when the ACC media poll came out, Syracuse projected 12th. Do you see that as being, under or over, or how do you see that with the schedule that Syracuse has?
I would say fair. If it was 10th, I would say, okay, that's probably good, but there's so much unknown right now about Syracuse. And yes, there was a lot of unknown last year, but at least you had a lot of playing time by Kyle McCord. Fadil Diggs was proven at Texas A&M. You had new coordinators, and we weren't sure how good Fran Brown was going to be, but the offensive weapons were there. Rondé Gadsden, fully healthy, he's good. And we just saw him yesterday in the Hall of Fame game. Marlon Wax, great defensive leader. We saw him with the Chargers yesterday as well. So I thought that there were a lot of weapons last year, and I'm bringing that up now in terms of the 12th place for the ACC preseason poll, is because you lose 6 of your top offensive weapons coming into this year. And you have to replace Justin Barron, Marlon Wax, Fadil Diggs on defense. So I just don't know how things are going to shake out. That's why you have the portal. That's why you have 2 quarterbacks coming in. So, yeah, I think 12 right now is fair. But you know how the preseason goes. I still remember how SMU was viewed as last season, and then they were one of 2 teams from the conference to make a run.
Syracuse projected 12th last year as well. And you look at the top of that, and SU plays all the top 4 teams on the road. Is this a Clemson team from the old, or are they, far and above the best team in the conference, or how do you see it shaking out, maybe top four wise?
Yeah, my top four teams right now, and I'll get back to your Clemson point because I was asked it on a radio show, but I have it in no specific order: Clemson, SMU, Miami, and Louisville. I would also say Georgia Tech is in the mix, and I know they finished top four in that preseason poll. But I was asked on another show about Clemson or the field, and I would have to lean towards the Tigers. The roster that they have, Cade Klubnik, what he was able to do in year two of Garrett Riley's system, he had arguably the best game last season against the best secondary in the country in Texas.
Yeah.
That was a good game. The final score will not indicate it. Clemson gave Texas all that they could handle. I really enjoyed what Clemson was able to do, even if some people will say that they snuck into the back door. Now you look at this season, one of the best wide receiver groups in the country. You also bring in a new defensive coordinator from Penn State and Tom Allen, and you look at the weapons that they have, and yes, Dabo actually hit the transfer portal. Will Held coming over on the defensive line. Peter Woods at 305 pounds is elusive. And then T.J. Parker, who can maybe be in the running for ACC Defensive Player of the Year. And Avion Terrell. They have about 5 first-round picks possibly in the NFL draft. It's crazy. And a majority of some of those guys are on defense. I think as long as Clemson doesn't smell the flowers, regardless of how that week one game stacks up for the bragging rights of the real Death Valley against LSU, that they're going to be fine.
I noticed a name missing off your list was Florida State. Can they recover from what happened to them last year?
It's funny because I think it all depends on who you ask in terms of being a believer of Florida State.
If you ask their quarterback, they're going to win the national championship. But
So I'm going to start there with Tommy Castellanos. I'm a believer of Tommy. I think back to 2 years ago when the comp was made that he's a diet Kyler Murray because of his size, elusiveness, not sure what he's going to be able to do. He can scramble for 30 yards but also dart it downfield. I think sometimes when a new coach comes in, you just simply don't fit their system. And when you look at his stats, not the final stats, but the stats up to the point where he was starting at Boston College last year with Bill O'Brien, one of his superpowers, if you're a diet Kyler Murray, is running. And he wasn't able to run that much last year because of the system. So now he steps into Florida State. He's reunited with his former head coach at UCF in Malzahn. And now, every time he played Florida State, Norvell was fully aware of what he was capable of. They bring in some new guys, and they're trying to wash or flush down the toilet that putrid season of being 2-10. I think this team is going to be better than last season. When you have such a low moment and it's in a dare of your program, you only have one place to go, and that's up. But I do believe that Florida State is going to be in the middle of the pack. How good they are, I feel like this entire conference is going to have a narrative that's written about them after week one. I mentioned LSU Clemson. Syracuse is playing against Tennessee in Atlanta. And then for FSU, they got the game against Bama. Now, whether that's a 3-0, 2-1 for the conference or 0-3, we'll find out very shortly. But I do think in terms of the national narrative, it's going to be very helpful for the conference to win some of those big games. And if FSU is going to talk all that junk, I think Tommy's going to have to prove it because the Crimson Tide definitely has all the bulletin board material that they need to.
All the talk nationally in the ACC for a couple of months is Bill Belichick coaching at North Carolina. Some would say he wasn't even going to coach a game this season when he was hired. We're about a month away from the season. What do we know about North Carolina?
I'm still trying to find out. Outside of the head coach, what do we need to know about this team that's actually going to translate into wins? Similar to Syracuse, I think for UNC, it starts under center. Max Johnson, veteran there. You also have Gio Lopez transferring in, another guy that we saw during ACC media. They have a couple of guys that they brought in, not a couple, I should say. They have a couple of guys that chose to stay there, but Belichick told us 70 new faces. 70. I don't think anyone can give you an answer if they truly know how this team is going to be. We've only seen so many coaches have success, both collegiate and professional, Pete Carroll being one of the most recent guys. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to have that answer after Labor Day when they play TCU. I think it's an enigma. It's a wait-and-see approach. I know some people want to choose their side, but I don't know if it's binary. I could see the season being below 500. I could see it being above 500. But this is really fascinating, and I feel like it's a reality show, and I hate that Hard Knocks won't be able to document it, but I guess Hulu will be able to. But let's buckle up and enjoy this show.
Justin, I'm going to end with, to you, what would a successful season be for Syracuse football this year?
I think getting to a bowl game, and I think I'm going to provide some context. You look at your schedule, and there are no layups, especially on the road. That puts an immense amount of pressure on Cuse to win at home. Georgia Tech, Miami, Clemson, SMU, Notre Dame, all teams that you have now on your slate compared to last year's schedule, who some people would say, well, it wasn't that bad. It was pretty easy, even though you had an impressive road win against UNLV. If Fran Brown is able to get this team to a bowl game, wow, that is a heck of a coaching job. Truly, even above 500 at that, I think that should be the goal or how you would deem success in year two, because wins, it's tough to say that if they're at this win total, that is success, and I don't think anything below 10 wins should be deemed a failure because of what he did in year one. But I think what should be attainable right now is getting to a bowl. That would be the bar that I would set for them.
Justin, hope we can catch up on Tuesday. Safe travels up here to Syracuse. Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me on.
There you go. Good job, Mario. Step right in for Steve. You TV guys are great.